everyone, welcome back. This is coffee number 3. Today, drinking a nice espresso roast from Booze, very nice. And we're going to talk a little bit about managing our minds and Professor Stephen Peters, the Chimp paradox. I came across the Chimp paradox a couple of years back. I was actually doing something not to do with work. I was doing quite a physical challenge that required me to do some very, very long runs in isolation. And basically, there was a need to work out how that goal could be achieved. But to be able to think about achieving that goal, I knew that I'd have to overcome some personal character flaws, you could say, or understanding my character more than and my personality more to be able to do that. So I went out and I looked for some stuff and came across this, which Professor Steve Peters has done a lot of work with, pro sports people, GB cycling, loads and loads. So Chris Hoy is one of the people that he's worked with and a massive fan. And the program is basically about understanding how your brain works. And I'm going to do a very, very quick, poor understanding overview here that'll give you a little flavor of some of the stuff. But it is a very detailed book with lots of exercises. Don't let that put you off, because it's a great book and you get a lot out of it. But by the end of it, you'll understand yourself better, how your brain operates, because everyone's brain operates slightly differently, but there's a core set of things that make that work. And then that will help and aid you into understanding how you can achieve your goals better. The Chimp paradox itself, basically, the brain's a very complex thing, right? But there are things that we do know. That is that we know that the brain is compartmentalized. There are different parts of the brain that do different tasks. And that, in real terms, if you want to get into the details, it's like the frontal, the temporal, the limbic, so on and so on. But there are 3 parts that we really care about. And that's basically broken down into the human, which is the frontal part of your brain, the computer, which is the parental, sorry, my pronunciation is not great, and then there's the chimp, which is the limbic, and the chimp is the fight or flight mechanism within you that is hard coded into us all, right? And that's where all of our emotional responses to things come from. So the different jobs of each of these things is that the human's there to be the logic, right? It's there to raise the logical questions and to put perspective on things. The computer's there to store automated responses, good and bad. And the chimp's there to give you that snap emotional response to things that potentially could do you harm or put you when you're in a dangerous situation. So when you go through this process of looking at this this framework, what you find is that you'll work out whether you're dominated by your chimp or you're balanced between your chimp and your human, and how many good or bad automations you have in your computer. Because basically the way it works is that the chimp is the fastest to respond to an input, right? So if something negative happens, like something happens at work where you miss a target, the chimp is going to be the first to respond, right? Unless there's something in the computer that you've hard coded that's going to overwrite the chimp's response, right? But even then, the chimp's emotional response is going to be a lot stronger than anything else. So if you're someone that's more balanced towards that, you tend to be more emotional in your responses. If you're someone that is more balanced towards logic, you're able to give the human a chance to respond, because the human is going to respond after the chimp, and you can give yourself that breathing space. Then you're more likely to come to a logical solution rather than being driven by the emotional side of things. So you can train yourself as well to give yourself that time, right? So you can, if you work at it, you can say, well, actually, hold on a second, I'm going to give myself a count of 10. And that 10 seconds is enough for the human to kick in and the logic to start to be floated around your brain, and also for the computer to find out if there's a programmed response here as well. Now, the computer is an interesting one because you can program positive, good habits and bad things, gremlins, into the computer. So if you're someone that has a negative response and you continually do that, it will hard code. You can still change those things over time by reprogramming your computer, but you have to do it, and it's a process that you have to undertake. So that's the sort of basis of it, and it goes into a lot more detail, but the idea is that once you understand how your brain is operating and where your responses are coming from and what type of responses you are generating when you're faced with certain different inputs, from that point, you then can start to work on how do I make changes within that, right? So how do I find better ways of solving problems? How do I create an opportunity for my human to respond over my chimp? And the more that I do that, the more likely I'm going to reprogram my computer to those good, happy habits, right? Just to sort of give another flavor of things. So I can give you a bit of an example as well. So I definitely was someone that was tended to be a bit more balanced towards emotional responses when I was younger. So I think one of the things that I've definitely learned since having spent a bit more time understanding myself is that I can change that and give myself the time and being able to reprogram some of those embedded responses and habits to be able to be more in line with where I want them to be, which is more on the logical side. So for example, when you're facing adversity, whether that be on a long race, an ultra marathon, or just a run, or in work where things might be challenging and you're up against the wall, rather than allowing the chimp to take over, you can use the time and those new practices to allow the human to respond, to give you a logical response that allows you to think pragmatically about how you get out of that adversity. So it definitely is a way of helping to control and manage your inner self. But the reality of it is that you can't just get rid of the chimp. It's always there. It's there for a very good reason, because if you do face danger, it's going to be the thing that's potentially going to kick in the automated responses that are built into us from the day we're born, to help save us and put us in safety. But you can do a lot to help manage some of the negative things that part of our personalities drives when we want to push ourselves past and beyond what it thinks is possible, but we know isn't, and we can always push ourselves a little bit further when we get into that space. Look, I can't. This book is a really interesting read, and the only way that you're really going to understand if it works for you and it's something of value is to read it. So yeah, I would definitely say go out there, get your hands on a copy of the Mind Management, the Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. Always say Stephen. And then let me know what you think, because it's had a big impact on me, and I know it's had a big impact on other people. So hope this has been useful, and we'll keep these coming. So hopefully in the next coming weeks, we'll have some other faces to mix things up a little bit. Hope this has been great. Speak to you in a week. Enjoy your coffee.